When I was planning out my Halloween reviews for October, I had originally planned to do at least 2 movies from the 2020 era because I figured they would just be hot garbage. And while my first choice worked out, my second choice might be a different story. As a child of the 90s, of course, I was familiar with the original Craft. When I got told about a week or two ago, hey, by the way, Craft sequel coming up in the end of the month, that changed my schedule of what I was going to review, and I switched some things around and decided I needed to review The Craft Legacy. Because, of course, it's a 2020 movie, it's a sequel, how could this possibly be good? However, like with all my reviews, I tried to come in with an open mind. All that preamble aside, let's break down the film. Our story follows Lily. She's a young girl who travels to a new town with her mom so she can move in with her stepdad. She's picked on at school, and through a set of circumstances runs into other girls at that school who happen to have some major interest in magic. The 4 of them become quick friends, and end up being able to enhance each other's abilities and cast spells on the people who picked on them at school. Their practice of magic comes much closer to shenanigans than in the original, where it was a much darker tone. I'm not going to spoil the ending, especially if you haven't seen it yet. I am going to say that the third act feels like it kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's definitely the weakest part of the entire movie. The audio is fine. There's background music that's generally forgettable, and most of the time you get pop songs from different eras playing in the background. It's nothing too impressive, though I do appreciate the mother and daughter sing-along with Alanis Morissette. Nice little throwback to the 90s. I do highly appreciate little touches like that make this movie a bit more fun than it otherwise would have been. One of the things that surprised me with this movie was the acting. The 4 girls are very much teenage girls. They behave like teenage girls. When their spell works out well, they all freak out. They yell, they giggle, they have a bunch of little quirks. They feel like real teenage girls, probably because they were played by real teenage girls. And I'm really surprised of that because everyone in the original Craft was essentially played by adults and acted like adults. It's nice seeing teens acting like teens. The side characters are generally fine. No one really stands out, but no one's really terrible. In fact, the only performance that feels a little out of place is David Duchovny. He plays his character so intense. You're not sure if there's something wrong with his character, or if David Duchovny thinks he's in a different movie. Either way, his performance doesn't gel well with the rest of the movie in terms of tone or style. Now the part most people have been waiting for, the flaws of the movie, and there are quite a few. First off, we have a few Blumhouse-isms. There's little moments where we get a jump scare for no real reason, none of which triggered on me, but it just, when they popped up, it was like, oh, come on. In addition to that, like in most Blumhouse horror movies, it's a PG-13. The original movie was rated R and definitely pushed that R limit. They had some fun with that. This one's PG-13 and almost feels like it's PG. There's no real teeth to this movie. Nothing gets extremely dark. Nothing gets extremely moody. There's basically no violence in it. If all intents and purposes, this feels like the Disney Channel adaptation of The Craft. It's just teenage girls having some shenanigans with very little consequence, and very little things going dark or wrong or evil. And that brings me to one of the biggest flaws of the entire movie, the third act. I'm not going to spoil it like I said earlier, but the main threat at the end of the movie comes out of nowhere. There's some plot points that are dumped on you at the very end of the movie that feels like they should have been in the second act. And the worst part is, while the first act is really good and you get to know these characters and see them learn their magic, the second act just seems to plod along. Like, they just didn't know what to do for the middle of the movie, and you're like, okay, well then is this just going to end if everyone has a happy day at the end? Where's this going? And then the third act is like, we're running out of pages in our script. This, and the end. And you're like, what was that? Why did you not build up to this in the second act, like a normal movie script? Maybe there were scenes cut out of this movie. Maybe the script is just bad. Maybe they ran out of money. I don't know what it was. But this entire movie falls apart right when you're expecting it to have a really fun, exciting ending. I did not expect to think that a 24 years after the original soft reboot sequel type movie would be something I would enjoy. And lo and behold, I was until I wasn't. With that being said, my final verdict is not recommended. That ending ruins everything. Anything it had built up with me, all the parts that I was really enjoying, just fell to the ground and shattered like a ceramic pot. And that's really unfortunate. I really do hope these girls go off and find some really good work. They're all very talented from what I saw. If there's an extended edition of this movie that comes out eventually, I will probably give it a chance just to see if they can fix the ending. Thus ends my Halloween movie reviews. I'll probably still do some horror reviews now and then, so please like and subscribe. It only takes a few seconds, and it really helps new channels like mine find an audience and grow. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see you at the tavern.